Hi, I just wanted to take a few minutes and tell two very different birth stories. I have two children, and with my very first child, I was really interested in using a birth center, and my husband was nervous about it. I knew I wanted to have a natural childbirth. I took natural childbirth classes, but we decided to go with the hospital on our first time around. I shopped for a doctor that did not perform episiotomies because I knew I didn't want that. I hired a doula and I came up with a birth plan. I was pretty sure I was all set to have a natural birth at the hospital. Unfortunately, when the time came for me to deliver, I was told by my doctor that I should stay at home because there were no available beds at the hospital. So I stayed home longer than I wanted to. And when I finally got to the hospital, the situation of the no beds was still pretty much the same. It took a long time for me to get a room. And the nurses told me I had to have an IV with antibiotics in order to deliver. I was essentially bullied into accepting antibiotics that I did not need. When my doctor finally arrived, because he was not there for most of my birth, he kind of laughed and said, "Oh, the nurses talked you into IV antibiotics, did they?" And so clearly he knew that I didn't need them either. But I was definitely bullied into having them. My birth was a little long, and I was doing really well birthing standing up. However, when it came time to give birth, my nurses insisted that I give birth in a bed. They did not allow me to give birth in an upright position. That arrested my childbirth, and it took a very long time for things to get started again. I ended up hemorrhaging and, frankly, almost dying. Afterwards, they thought I needed a blood transfusion. However, I had been moved around to so many different hospital rooms that the technicians that were supposed to draw my blood couldn't even find me. So my blood was never drawn, and it was never determined whether I actually needed a blood transfusion or not. After 2 days, I was sent home. The second time I was ready to give birth, I definitely wanted a different experience. So I went to the midwives at our local birth center, Special Beginnings, and I explained my birth story to them. They explained that they would not force me to have antibiotics, that I would be able to give birth in an upright position, and that they would be there for me the whole way. In my first birth, the doctor had to be actually pulled out of a scheduled C-section surgery in order to be there to deliver my first baby. So when I went to the birth center the second time, it was great. I had a nurse with me the whole time. I had my doula with me the whole time. I had a midwife at my disposal the whole time. I was able to give birth in a standing position. There were no complications at all with the delivery, and it was just an amazing experience. And the thing that I would like is to never have a woman be forced into doing something that is against her will at the hospital. I'm really sad that I was bullied into having antibiotics that I didn't need. I also think that I was super lucky that I lived close to a birth center. The birth center was actually closer to where I lived than the local hospital, and I know that that's not the case with everybody, and I would like everyone to be able to have a birth center birth or a home birth or whatever kind of birth they want without any restrictions placed on that.